This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA.
Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. And while we are continually trying to stay on top of everything that's happening with this global pandemic, hey, it's not all gloom and doom. We got each other, and that's all we need. So let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet to my right-hand man, www.shawsports.net, Big Kahuna PNC. My man, Mr. Warren Shaw, repping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Holla back at me, Mr. Shaw. Hey, man, did you jump in any of those crazy IG parties that were happening just this past evening?
Absolutely, my dude. Fresh off the Uber Soca cruise party, from my West Indian roots, had to go take part of that. Over the course of the weekend, D Nice had a IG live party that had 100,000
Did you see
people come
Michelle Obama, the former first lady, was up in that piece. I mean, come on, man. And we know our man D Nice. You know his single, They Call Me D Nice. That was always one of my favorite singles, man. I mean,
yeah, he did the damn
and he still looks good for his age, man. He gives me hope.
Well, all of us, you know what they say. But I think in general, as we all look for various forms of distractions and entertainment, sometimes you get tired of playing video games, you get tired of streaming whatever TV show or movie, and you want to have some level of interaction. Well, here's where social media now can actually serve its greatest purpose. And I think we're all just looking to try to make sure that we can take care of each other, but still have a little fun at times as well too. And I think these IG lives and these virtual parties are going to be the next wave of the future here for, well, not the future, the present and the future, I think, for a little bit.
Oh, listen, as long as D Nice be spinning like how he like he was spinning, the other night, man, I'm just saying. Just
saying though, it's just like, when you do something like that, can you recreate it? Like, that was such a unique and special, like, you didn't know it'd be as dope as it was, but now when you try to do it again, and you get that same level of, excitement around it. I'd be interested to see, but I know I'll probably be there,
when it goes all bad. When IG starts, putting VIP lists together, and now you can't get on unless you got to pay like a $5 premium or something like that to get in the party. Like, they're gonna do you like they do, you know what I'm saying, people when you go to the clubs in the city, man. It's not right. You know what I'm saying? It's not right.
For sure.
Listen, we hope everybody is really doing what they can to take in, the circumstances that's going on with the coronavirus. Obviously, it's impacting everything, and it's certainly impacting the state of play in the NBA. And of course, while there's still no games being played, that doesn't mean that we're not trying to stay on top of everything that is going on behind the scenes to eventually get the game back in front of your television sets or whatever medium you use to watch the games going on. We have someone who we really think is going to help us bring a lot of insight on the state of the league as it is at this moment. Our man Tim Reynolds from the AP is going to hop on board with us in a few to break a lot of things down. We've got a ton of questions, and my man has got a ton of answers. No better person that we'd like to bring on to help us give us that insight. So once again, we appreciate you and yours for hopping on board with us despite the circumstances. You could be anywhere on the social media platforms in this galaxy, but you're here with us, and we appreciate it. Once again, get at my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA, or get at me at GameFace Lee. The show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline, available on all the major platforms. Whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts, we ask you to add us to your playlist and allow us to be your go-to resource discussing all things happening on the association. You can also find us exclusively on Dash Radio through the Nothing But Net network on Tuesdays. Hey, man, we bring you the goods. All we ask you to do is sit back, relax, and taste the flavor. All right, man, let's not waste any time, man. We have got a great guest on. He's ready to go, and we're ready to give you the butter goods, as I'd like to call it. You know how we do. You know how we roll. Let's talk state of play in the NBA here on The Breakdown.
Time to break it down.
To the bone gristle.
Time now for The Breakdown. Callie Warren Shaw, the Baseline NBA podcast. And on with this week, to help us kind of bring things in its proper perspective with, where the NBA right now is trending due to the concerns of this pandemic that's taking place right now. We have AP writer extraordinaire Tim Reynolds hopping on board. He just recently dropped a really great article with regards to the state of the NBA, the concerns obviously that are looming over for Adam Silver and the players, and what answers are NBA fans, the media writers, the NBA community in general are looking for with regards to the future of the NBA through this crisis. Tim, thanks for hopping on board with us this week.
Oh, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I think the first thing people want to really get their arms around, and I don't think enough of it is being discussed unless, because it's always from the perspective of either from the commissioner and really from the players themselves. But how has the impact of this pandemic, how's that impacted you and your ability to cover the status of what's happening in the NBA that led you to help create the most recent article that you just released?
Well, the article on Saturday was, an interview with Adam. He was kind enough to give AP some time, and we were able to put that together. To answer your question, I don't know. I think I've written every day since the shutdown happened. Maybe I missed a day. I can't remember. It's like the news is still happening, so it hasn't really changed what I do yet. When it will change is when 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, when we're still in this, and then we're all just waiting. Like we're still in. There's been developments every day. I mean, it all happened so fast. It was, we're going to play without fans. Then Rudy tests positive. Okay, so we're shutting it down. And the initial thought, it was never announced, but the initial thought was, okay, maybe we can get through this in 2 weeks. And then the next day, the CDC is saying 30 days. The day after that, the CDC is saying 60 days. So all of a sudden, we've gone from like March 28th till like May 15th. And that happened in like 36 hours. So it's still the game. We've missed 80 games now as we're sitting here talking. It's been 80 games that haven't been played. The news cycle hasn't stopped. It will slow, and that's when NBA writers are going to have to get creative. But there's been enough right now to keep us. A month from now is when I'm going to miss it again.
So what would you say, Tim, is the opportunities potentially for the season and the importance of the season actually completing or just reshaping itself altogether? Like, what sense do you get? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I know Adam said a lot of things himself, but what sense do you get about this season actually being completed in its full 82 and a regular playoffs taking place?
Well, I think, first of all, the biggest thing is you get that the game resumes. Forget full 82, forget a full playoff, 4 rounds of best of 7. I think we need it's not just hoops either. Like, we need hockey, we need golf, we need tennis, we need, Pat Riley has always said, and it's a line that he stole from somebody, but I know we give him credit for it and I steal it from him. We are the toy department of human affairs, and we are. And that's true. Like, we are the toy department, but sports matter. And if we're all in this place after a week and a half where we're all clamoring for our escape from reality, when that escape gets taken away, we just need it. So broadly, that's my first attempt at an answer at your question. Specifically to your question, I think the hope of 82 for everybody, I think it's gone. I think the best case right now is come back, play a few games, figure out if it's going to be a best of 5 or best of 7 playoff. By that point, hopefully you have guidance from state, local, federal officials about whether fans can come back. That will be a huge part of this. If you don't have fans, you can play the playoffs a lot quicker than you usually can because you might not have to have travel days. Maybe you play it all in 1 or 2 or 3 places. Maybe you play it in neutral sites. Maybe you bring the teams to one place and try to control the travel. Try to, you play one day, you're off. Play off, play off. Maybe you do that. Maybe you do East one day, West the next day. There's a lot of ideas. You can get through a playoff pretty quickly. It takes us now 2 months to run a playoff. Without travel, we wouldn't need 2 months. So there's so many unknowns, guys. And that's just one notion that's out there. There are 50 notions out there. We just, I think in the next month and a half, we'll know. And until then, we're all going to be guessing and we're all going to be waiting, and players are going to have to start working out somewhere for a season that they don't know if it's going to start in May, June, July, or at all. It's just the craziest time. And the reality of it is all of us have questions and none of us have answers. And that's just the reality right now.
AP, Tim Reynolds joining us here on the Baseline NBA podcast as we're covering the state of play regarding the NBA. And Tim, I actually want to kind of quickly jump on something. And Shaw, I know you had provided us with some, litany of different talking points for us to try and get Tim's take on this. So I'm
sorry about that, Cal. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But I actually want to skip to a part because of something that you just said, in relation to, how much question marks are really out there with regards to what should be the next move for the NBA. And I think it comes in line with, a lot of people right now, and I'm following this, via through Twitter. There are two sides to the coin here. Adam Silver is balancing out how proactive the NBA has been to really help people understand the magnitude of what this pandemic crisis has evolved into, that it's not just, something that's going to pass, that, even the most elite athletes that are getting paid millions of dollars are susceptible to this virus, and that it can basically come down to the most common person. So there's no discrimination to who it is that's getting affected. It's a question of, how do we, again, flatten the curve? He's balancing that at the same time with what's happening right now with the angst and the frustrations of people who find that their most greatest concern right now is the health of themselves and their family members and within their communities. And I'm wondering, to your point, how you feel Adam Silver, when you had this opportunity to talk with him, what his temperament has been like through this, because he has been about the most even-keeled person that I know right now, that without even recognizing it, he's balancing the weight of allowing us a passage to normalcy if this does pass, if we get through this, within the next few months or so. And the idea, the premise of keeping what we remember about the NBA and how things should probably go and where things might stand. How do you get a feel from how he is responding to all of this when he talks with you or talks with anybody right now regarding this situation?
Well, I can't remember if he said it first on the TV interview with Turner or the TV interview with Rachel the other night, but I know he said it in our conversation that there are 1,200 employees in the league office. There's 55,000 jobs directly tied to NBA games. That's the arena workers, that's the players, that's everything. And he feels ownership of those 50, a responsibility. I mean, look, the arena workers in Milwaukee do not report to Adam, but he feels responsible that they get back to those jobs at some point. So think of the weight of 55,000 jobs that you feel like you have to find a way to save. That's the first part.
Mm-hmm.
The second part, think of the year the man has had. Daryl Morey's tweet cost this league hundreds of millions of dollars. And that China mess still is not fixed, by the way. It's better, but it's not fixed. That was October. New Year's Day, David died. Adam's mentor, the commissioner emeritus. We never thought David was going to die. David was going to outlive all of us. And then he's gone. 3.5 weeks after that, we lose Kobe. Now we're facing the global health crisis of our lifetimes. this has come in 5 months across this man's desk. Like, I think he's done a remarkable job. And oh, by the way, he doesn't work for the players or the arena workers or whatever. He works for 30 owners
Right.
who are in this business to make money. And this year they are not going to make money. They're going to lose money. And these are not guys that like losing money very much. So the balancing act is astounding to me of what he's done. I think, if anything, Adam has shown go back to the earliest part of his tenure, guys, go back to his first big moment. It was Donald Sterling.
Mm-hmm.
Adam won this league over with the way he handled that. And he showed that he's great in a crisis. I don't know how much more the man can take, but I'm willing to bet that he can figure this out, and that if there is a way to get the NBA through this crisis, he will find it. Now, much like everybody in power, Adam likes control. I mean, he's not very different from David in that regard. Adam, there are very few details of the NBA that he's not aware of. Like, there's not nothing is too small for him to feel like he should weigh in on it. It's right. He's used to being in control, and none of us are in control right now. None of us are in control of this thing. So I think the challenge for Adam, as I see it, is going to be to continue rolling with the punches that we don't know where they're coming from or how hard it's going to hit. They'll figure out the money. The best part for Adam right now is that they have a great relationship with Michelle Roberts, with Chris Paul, with the Players Association. The last CBA negotiation was easy. We expect this one, when they start really negotiating again in a couple of years, probably under new leadership at the union office, with Michelle, when Michelle's saying that she's not going to go for a third term. We think that'll be relatively easy, at least we hope. Adam has the respect of the players, so he knows he has that. So he doesn't have to make anything rash. But the way he's handled all this so far, I mean, I give him 5 stars. If this was Uber, he'd be getting 5 stars from me.
Well, Tim, I think you laid that out perfectly. Talking about Adams' overall tenure, what all the things that he's had to go through as a commissioner, and I was 30 years or so that Stern was in power. It's just, I don't think condensed he had to deal with all these things in that same kind of manner. Of course, 30 years, sure, he dealt with a lot.
David went through some stuff. Don't worry. I mean,
yeah.
The 80s were not a good time. But I know what you're saying. I hear you.
Yeah. I'm just actually like
I may have helped in that part of it either as well too. I may have had some issues with David Stern, but it's okay.
So I want to ask though, even with this kind of Silver's trials, if you will, the things that he's dealt with, and you mentioned amazing points, because I think I listened to David Aldrich's podcast not too long ago with Michelle Roberts on, and we're talking about some of the things that might be coming up from a business standpoint. So while Adam has done a great job, I think, from the overall PR of it and being the face really of the league, the way that he needs to be as commissioner, now you're starting to hear things about, again, the revenue loss and the force majeure that they could come in and the players may not get all of their money and things of that nature. How real or what sense do you get that may be something that they're going to have to invoke? And what pressure can you tell us that he may be getting from the owners to say, listen, we don't want to have to pay this. We're obviously there's a clause in the CBA that will allow for something like this to for all the money not to be paid out. But what sense of pressure do you think he's getting from his owners?
Well, I don't think he's getting a ton yet. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but I don't think there's a ton. I mean, I think I wrote about force majeure for the first time like on the second or third day of this thing, because it's in the CBA. It's no secret. It's all laid out. It looks like this complicated math formula that players have to lose 192.6 of their salary, which works out to like 1.08%, the way they have it figured. That adds up quick. I mean, for Steph, it's 410 a game. It adds up quick. Mm-hmm. Even for guys on a minimum, it's like 9,300 or something like that. So it's big money. I don't think they're there yet, because remember, nothing's been canceled. Nothing's been canceled yet. And when you cancel games, that's when revenue will be lost. That's when eventually you're going to have to take back some of the money. I think most owners get it. That it's everybody is in this together. I think the players get it too. By the way, the players aren't going to like it, and I don't think a lot of players really understand how the reality that this isn't going to be an 82 game season, so therefore they're not going to get paid for playing 82. I don't think they get that yet. I expect that they're going to lose some money. I do think that there's been years and years and years of goodwill, and I think Adam will try to do all he can working in concert with the union. And that's what's important too, guys. When this stuff came out a couple nights ago about one of the latest memos that went out, trust me that nothing has gone out without union leadership knowing about it. Like, these talks have been going on with the Michelle Roberts and Chris Pauls, and I'm sure Chris has talked about it with the executive board. Like, they know what's up, and nobody likes it, but they get it. The league's going to lose revenue. I mean, Adam capped the China loss at like $400 million. I've been told it's probably closer to 250 in terms of what they lost in revenue out of that deal. You remember the reports a couple of months ago saying next year's cap was probably going to dip about 2 million. That's because of China. Next year's, the projected cap, what teams were working for. The way I've done the math.
Before you finish your thought about that, Tim, I just want to ask you a quick question. Maybe just, from a person who kind of got your claws in there, I just want to get your take on this. Given what is happening right now, the optics of what's happening, and I don't want you to get too political, but I'm just saying, do you think that there's a space where the NBA can come right back in and be prioritized as a very important partnership with China if we get through this global pandemic? Regardless of what the circumstances of this being, a lost season or not, do you think that given how Adam Silver works, that there is a space to rekindle that to in a way so that it kind of rebuilds, and the NBA and China, as a country, given the bad optics again that they've taken for this, for what's happened with the virus, can that help be a catalyst to rebuilding damaged relationships that have happened over the year?
I think everything right now can help. Like, you're not going to hear the NBA playing the blame game. You're not going to have the NBA saying, this virus, it did originate in China. I mean, we know that it originated there. Now, the politics part, that's the politics part. The NBA is not going to call it what some lawmakers are calling it. Let's put it that way. I do think, if I understand your question right, Cal, I do think there are opportunities. Like the Chinese League, the Chinese Basketball Association is hoping to start play. I mean, I know it's been reported that they're going to. Nobody knows. Like, some guys have already gone back to try to resume their seasons. Nobody really knows yet when they're going to play. They're going to play in empty buildings, but I would think they're going to play sometime in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, probably on the back end of that, probably closer to 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you'll see some of those games on NBA TV or on an NBA platform.
Right.
Yeah, look, the NBA is always looking for content. That would be huge for the CBA. That would be huge for Yao Ming's league. I think maybe you could see an olive branch like that. And by the way, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just wondering if that's an opportunity. That's strictly me making it up, just to be really clear. But I could see Adam doing something like that because, one, people want to see ball no matter where it is in the world right now. But also, that'd be a big deal for China to get its product on NBA platforms, even in these weird times, even without fans in the stands over there. I think that would be an olive branch. It's like you're seeing this right now with the Olympics. I mean, guys, we all know the Olympics aren't going to happen this summer, at least not July 24th. Like, we can all be 99% sure of that, right? But they haven't called it yet. And I think a lot of it is in that part of the world, in Asia, doing things, saving face, your best foot forward, making it seem like there's organization to the operation.
Giving
a
sliver of
part of the world.
Even though it's almost logistically impossible. Right.
It is almost logistically impossible, but you need, we can think what we want about Daryl's tweet and the politics behind it and the Chinese reaction and how it all went down in October, we're not going to see it the way the Chinese do. We're not going to see moving these Olympics the same way the Japanese will. And by the way, the logistics of moving the Olympics, the logistics of delaying an Olympics, insane. By the way, like I can't even start to fathom how it's going to be crazy for my company. We are one teeny tiny part of this thing, I assure you. So the levels of crazy that will be something like I don't even want to think about it. But I think Cal, yeah, I do think there's an opportunity here for the NBA to extend its hand to China and say, let's help each other get through this. Yeah, I do think there are opportunities for that, and I do think in the long term they will go a long way. Yes.
So is that something, Tim, that could potentially extend past China or other parts of the world that may just be playing basketball, as Adam has always had, and David obviously really started it, the global vision of the game? So is that something, and again, I know you're spitballing and just kind of putting out your own thoughts here, but would that be something that they should potentially look into if whatever basketball resumes, wherever parts of the world? Could the league then now potentially utilize that as, hey guys, here's some level of content? We're also hearing about the big three and Ice Cube, ever the always the businessman, thinking about putting some of these players together and doing it. I don't know what's the show on CBS. I forget it right now, but whatever, that TV show where they just follow them their entire lives, the entire day, and then having some games mixed into that as well.
Right.
And then there was mention of a charity game. Do you think these are all ways, from a conglomerate standpoint, the league can maybe get its hooks in a little bit to try to give fans some content?
I think it's all that and more, guys. I think it's all that and more. I mean, that's the beauty of this game, right? That's the beauty of our sport. Old people, young people, black guys, white guys, men, women. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Guys like you who can play, guys like me who can't. Like, it doesn't matter. It brings us together. And yeah, this will be when it's safe for all of us to kind of sort of be around each other again. Believe me, yeah, the NBA will find ways. They already are. I mean, some of the initiatives they've announced in the last few days, I mean, they seem minor, but they're out there right now talking about, let's use this app, let's try to stay fit when we can't be around each other. Let's try, let's get kids dribbling in the garage. Let's do stuff like that. Kevin Love has been really out front about the mental health side of this. Like, a lot of us are very lucky. We're home with our families. Well, what if you don't have a family? What if there are people that are alone right now in this? There are people that are really struggling in these times. The mental side of it, the NBA wants to devote resources to that. It's the greatest game in the world for a reason. And we all know it. It brings literally all of us together, rich, poor, old. I mean, all of us. This game doesn't care. This game doesn't care. If you love this game's going to love you back. David started that vision, and Adam has taken the ball and run with it. And yes, I don't know how, Warren, but there will be 100 million ways that the NBA tries to grow its brand. Sure, because it's good business, but also it's good for it's good for all of us. It's good for humankind right now. The game's never hurt anybody. We're all going to be hurting when this is over. Let's find ways to use the game to make us all feel better.
Tim Reynolds joining us here on the Baseline NBA podcast, writer extraordinaire for the Associated Press, as we continue our conversations regarding the state of play with the NBA and the coronavirus. So, Tim, one thing that I know that has been, we talked about it, sparingly a little bit earlier, but it's in reference to the accessibility to the players, being tested. And basically, from what it sounds like, not everybody has been tested for the coronavirus as far as within the NBA community goes. And I'm specifically speaking about NBA teams and athletes. I would presume that and I know maybe in some way, shape, or form you may have, probably have asked that if and when that opportunity presents itself, that Adam Silver will then kind of come out and say something with regards to this. But there's slowly that drip of now finding out more players are being tested positive for the virus. Kevin Durant for the Brooklyn Nets, just recently Marcus Smart, and I know you had an opportunity to talk with him about this. What are your concerns? What did you get from Adam Silver as his approach to this goes, with the prioritization of getting his guys tested without the optics that is looming over to make it sound like he has his, claws in the hooks of the healthcare system to get accessibility to these tests over the everyday person, the common folk person. Like, how is he approaching this without drawing more fire that's being aimed at him because of the circumstances that's happening?
It's a good question. And to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, the NBA has not arranged a test. That's to the best of my knowledge, it has not come from on high that you're testing these teams. The first team to get tested was Utah. Utah got tested by the state of Oklahoma's health department. The state of Oklahoma insisted the Jazz stay in their locker room for 4 hours with their masks on after they got the word back on Rudy. Now, I don't know how Rudy got tested. I know the Jazz tested him for flu and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't know how the very first test given to an NBA player that we know of was Rudy. And I don't know how that came about. I assume it was from public health authorities in Utah, or in Oklahoma, sorry. The rest of the Jazz traveling party and their beat writers got tested by the state. And I know that raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, how did this happen? Well, think of it, that night, there were so many unknowns. I think they wanted to know how many people got exposed to, if all these people are sick, if the entire Jazz party is sick, how many people in the state of Oklahoma got exposed to them? I think they wanted to corral it as best they could. Now, people get upset about that, but I remind them, Rudy Gobert gave $100,000 to the state of Oklahoma last weekend. So he didn't do it to pay for those tests, but those tests got more than paid for. The rest, for the most part, I shouldn't say all, for the most part, the rest of the teams that have gotten tested have done so through private means. This is the gray area. You can go, I was part of an investigative team last week at AP, and we went about how do you get a private test? And yes, not everybody can get them. It's out of financial reach for some people. It was only we found them in California for as little as $195 plus the lab fees. And I don't know what the lab fees are, but it wasn't like an exorbitant amount. And by the way, I could have booked an appointment myself. I could have booked an appointment for a doctor to come to my home, or a tech or whoever. I shouldn't say doctor, but a person to come to my home, swab me, and then they'll send me a bill and my results. I could have done it. So, I don't know if that's taxing the public health resources. I don't think it is, but it is taxing the labs. And this is just the fault of, there's a lot of fault here, guys. There's a lot of gray area in the system, but broadly, Adam has not bypassed any lines. And I asked him the other day, and I know Rachel asked him too, if he's been tested yet. He has not. Adam's married with a small child at home. He's out and about a little bit. New York City's kind of a hotbed for this thing right now. He has not been tested yet. So there's a lot of daggers to throw at this system, believe me. But I don't think Adam's to blame for any of it. Not on this.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And even, for me, I've tweeted out, my, I don't want to say my concern when I see, the mayor of a major city, and I'll speak on it, because I have all the, the respect in the world for Mayor de Blasio and what he's trying to do for his constituents and everything like that. But sometimes when you're putting out tweets because you're angry at at somebody else, you look at the easiest, most accessible, premise to kind of take your anger out at, and you're starting to blame, players for doing what you would expect anybody who has the ability and the accessibility to do it, is to make sure that they're getting tested if there's an opportunity to be tested. And I get it, but when you don't word it correctly, you then start spreading this premise out there that all of these guys have, the inside game. And I'm glad you're bringing light to that. You know what I'm saying? Because that to me is.
Yeah, hang on. It wasn't worded incorrectly. It was worded dangerously. I mean, let's say what it is.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes. You're absolutely right.
It was
reckless.
A tweet. It was a tweet that was unfair because, and look, I'm guilty of this. Look, I tweet too much. I know that.
Hey, it's a habit. I'm picking it up too much.
Is.
I got too much time on my hands sometimes. Yes, I know.
200. It's impossible to tell both sides of a story in 280 characters sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, look, I speak freely on the topic. I know you're not supposed to, but I speak freely on it. I have voted for members of both major political parties. I don't vote by party. I never have. And I'm a native New Yorker, not from the city, but I'm a native New Yorker. And I like Bill de Blasio. I mean, I don't pretend to know him, but whatever. I find he's I think he's done some good things in the city. And like with all politicians, he's done some things that I'm like, hey. Yeah. And this is one of those things. Exactly. As far as I go in politics. But look, this isn't the time. How did that? My question broadly to any politician right now pointing fingers, or really any of us, not just politicians, any of us pointing fingers right now, is how is that helping?
Exactly.
Like, how is that? We're not to the finish line here, folks. Like, how is that helping? I mean, I guarantee you there's been people on social media all weekend looking at I'm in Miami, and we had, 20,000 people on a sandbar this weekend on their boats, and everybody going crazy about that. And they haven't shut down all the beaches in the state yet. And we had spring breakers. Now they're going home, and they're going to spread this thing everywhere and be super spreaders, I guess is the term now, and all that. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you half the people who are complaining about it have not exactly been the most diligent right now in flat.
And not taking it seriously. And then when they find out their favorite player gets tested positive, now it hits home. Now they have their come to Jesus moment about this.
To me, that's the most amazing part of this, is it took Rudy Gobert testing positive. I mean, Adam sounded the alarm, and I'm guilty of it. I added the press conference in Chicago on February 14th, on Valentine's Day. The Saturday night press conference, and we all got swept up in the news that night that Kobe, the night started with, Kobe. I had just left. President Obama had sat with Chris Paul and Giannis and Kevin Love, and I was one of the reporters lucky enough to be at that. I run over from there, get there just in time to hear Adam say, we're renaming the MVP trophy for Kobe. Then that night, the dunk contest happened, and that, the world ended that night because of the dunk contest and how, you know the story there. And all of us missed that night that Adam, during that press conference, said, hey, we're dealing with a global health crisis here. He called it a global health crisis on February 14th.
He didn't mince his words.
And it took us until March 11th, was it, to all catch up when Rudy tested positive. Okay, now it gets real. Now it's a big deal. It had been a big deal for months, but it speaks to the power of the NBA that there was a tipping point moment was going to come in this country. It was. It just happened to be the NBA that tipped it.
So, Tim, I mean, a great points as always. And I just thinking about, I don't want to harp on the financial aspect of this or whatever, but even when you talk about the optics and, mayors and whoever, and we know we already know senators are, day trading and moving their money and all. There's so many layers to this whole situation. Do you feel in any way, shape, or form that players, owners, or anybody like that need to do more? So you already talked about all the jobs that are now lost as a result of this. So teams and some players are trying to do that. Do you feel like, I never want to tell people what to do with their money, but do you feel like because these folks are again of the upper class, should they be trying to help pay for tests in the community? Because I know you didn't say it specifically, but Rudy, maybe his $100,000 went to some testing, in Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City, sorry.
I don't know that it did, but so I don't. I'm not going to not answer but I don't know, and here's why I don't know. I try to be pretty informed. I mean, I have paid attention to this from a news side too. Like, I mean, look, the reality is for a guy like me, my company covers everything. Mm-hmm. And at the AP, yes, we have our specialties. Like I'm an NBA writer for the AP, but I've also covered hurricanes, and I've covered elections, and I've covered, mass shootings. I've covered tragedy. I've been, I've covered a lot of stuff. That's what you have to do here. And I would imagine that I'm going to be leaving my basketball notebook at home and going out with my news notebook pretty soon, because there won't be a lot of stuff for me to do. So I'll jump in and help with news. And I like that. So I've tried to stay as informed as I can on this on a lot of different levels. And to this moment, I'm still unclear. When we talk about a testing shortage in this country, is it a shortage of the tests or is it a shortage of the labs being able to process the tests? Because as I understand it, the test itself is just a long swab. I would think we got a lot of Q-tips laying around. I don't think it's the.
I know you're not there yet.
I don't think it's.
I think the other question as well too. The other question as well too, Tim, is what test are we speaking of? Is this the standardized test across the board that is being used? Because even I've tried to follow it, have had a hard time saying, yes, we have found the test that is required for us to determine that you are positive or negative for the COVID-19 virus. I don't know if you've ever heard if that has been certified yet. Have you?
I know that from the day I spent this past week, Wednesday or Thursday, guys, I don't know what day it is. I barely know what month it is right now, but whatever day
it's
I was helping out it's all a haze. Whatever day I was helping out the investigative team for the story on the private testing, I found at least 3 different types of tests.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot of confusion out there. And oh, by the way, we haven't even gotten into the whole how accurate are some of these tests, because some people think that they have it and the test comes back negative, and then they find out after the fact they had it. And there's a lot of questions to this. So let's go back to Warren's premise for a second. Should the 1%, or if you're talking about NBA,
the NBA 1%ers, yeah, we got
the NBA.
We already know about the 1%.
The 1% of the 1%. I think so far, and again, not a lot of this stuff. Like Zion was great. Zion came out and said, "I want to take care of the workers at the arena for a month," and we don't really know what that is, what that will cost. But it's going to cost Zion and Nike or whoever's going to help him out with it. I mean, if anybody is, that's going to cost them $1 million. You know, we know some guys stepped up right away and gave money. We know some teams have stepped up and gave money. I try to keep track of it, and loosely right now I have the figure at like 45 million, which is great. I mean, that's tremendous. Okay. How long does this last? Like,
right, exactly.
What happens to these arena workers when Disney on Ice doesn't come to your town in August? What happens when Mark Anthony doesn't play your town on September 13th? Like, I mean, what happens then? It's a great start. I think what has to be thought of is some sort of long-term plan, and it's not the 30 people that own NBA teams. It can't be on them. Now, I will say this. In Miami's case, and I don't know the specifics of a lot of the other teams, we hear dollar amounts. In Miami's case, there are more than 10 different levels of game night worker. There's people contracted by the Heat. There's people contracted by the food and beverage concessionaire, which is a group called Levy. There's the security and ushers, which are provided by a company called CSC. There's a company that does housekeeping and janitorial. I forget their name. There's a lot of these companies. A lot of these people don't work for the Heat, and the Arisons are paying for all of them. So I don't know how much more they can do. Basically, as it's been explained to me, anybody that works an hourly wage job at a Heat game is going to get covered for what they would have gotten through the end of the regular season by Heat, which I think is an amazing gesture. But at the same time, those people aren't doing concerts in May, and they're not going to be doing playoff games in June, and all those other things. And that's when it starts to get scary. And can they do more? Sure. I fully expect Adam would not have floated the charity game idea unless he thought it was going to happen or if he didn't want it to happen. That could be enormous, especially if it was like, if you can't play it with fans, if you're going to quarantine everybody, that means you can't have fans there. Would it be a pay-per-view situation and all that money going to charity? I don't know. Maybe it would. I I know the NBA is going to do a lot, but because they won't be able to do it all, that will forever open the door to people saying they didn't do enough.
All right, Tim, we've kept you so long here. I got to get this last question in, but you've just been so amazing. I appreciate you.
I should have warned you guys. I've got things to say. So I should have warned you guys to get going.
No, trust me, that's great, and I think our fans, listeners are gonna eat this up. And since it's first time on our show, and I've seen you around and haven't really made a chance to talk to you in person, but I really do appreciate your take and your patience here with us. And I'm gonna just shift it quickly back, to the.
Well, wait, Tim, you're quarantined, right? You're
I'm not quarantined.
Oh, okay.
I am doing my part.
Okay.
Let's say.
All right.
I am.
So Sean, he's got time to kill.
My wife and I go out. We go out to walk our dogs.
Okay.
And essentials only. Like I did go out for a minute today because we had to pick up a couple of things. I had, not kidding, I had Clorox wipes on my hands the whole time. I'm like touching the keypad when I'm checking out. I've got like the Clorox thing between my finger and the thing. Like I'm taking every precaution that I can when I'm out. And I did see a lot of people in gloves and masks, so that was good. But we've been I'm proud of us. We've been good. We've been good kids. We've been cooking at home. It's been great. So, and nobody's gotten hurt yet. So that's amazing. We're off to a great start.
I haven't blown up
Nobody's
the house.
gotten sick.
Right.
Nothing bad has happened. My floors have never looked so good. We've never had this little amount of laundry in the house. It's been fantastic.
Way to make a positive out of this whole situation.
Exactly.
And I think we're all there with you when it comes to that. And the one thing I did want to ask though is just what's your sense, for the players, and have you talked to any of the Heat guys, and what are they doing to stay fit? And then a second part to that is, I know Adam is trying to not really talk about it too much, but even the impact on the draft lottery, the combine, the draft itself, all these things where evaluation and training and things would be going on. Just what is the new normal for that, and what can the league do, if anything, to kind of facilitate some of these processes?
So a lot and a little. No decisions really have been made yet. I don't expect the draft combine in Chicago to happen. I mean, that puts us that was somewhere around May 20th. I mean, that puts us almost right up against the start of the initial CDC window when they said 8 weeks. That took us to like May 15th for no gatherings. So I'm pretty sure that won't happen. Now, the teams that I've talked to, they want to see how guys work out hard after their season ends, and how they've changed their bodies. Have they gotten better? Have they not? That May evaluation period was a big one, because you're talking about the investment of an awful lot of money. They can do all these things via video. Teams have gotten so advanced with the scouting that every team has a draft board already. It was going to change a lot in the next 3 months, but every team has a draft board already. They have an idea of what their needs will kind of be. It will make things very, very challenging. It's going to make things very challenging. I think the draft lottery will go ahead as scheduled because, if the season is over, if the regular season is declared over at that point, that would have to be the case for the draft lottery. But you can do that anywhere. You can do that via video. You can do the draft via video. I think you're going to see a lot of Skype type workouts. I don't know even if you'll see the private one-on-ones because, NBA facilities are now closed, guys. They're closed until further notice. I don't know if the NBA is going to open them back up so you can have, Anthony Edwards come work out for you. I don't know if that's going to happen. So the draft is always a crapshoot. Well, this year it's really going to be one. You're going to see some gambles. I would expect that they would push it back to whenever the season is over. You're not going to make teams draft during the playoffs. You never have, and that won't happen. So there will be some flexibility there. But I think for the most part, the evaluations whether teams like it or not, they're probably done at this point. And look, this isn't just the NBA's problem. I mean, the NHL has a central scouting service that they use for players in Russia and Europe and Canada. That shut down weeks ago. Some NFL team is going to have to, probably the Dolphins will be involved in this. Some NFL team is going to have to make an enormous gamble on Tua and his health. And, Alabama's not going to have a pro day. Will Tua do any individual workouts before he gets drafted a month from now? Baseball's talking about getting rid of its draft this year, which is crazy when you think about it. And you think, wow, maybe it makes some sense. This is just part of the new world, guys. The new world's 11 days old as we're sitting here talking now. And whatever you thought was normal might not be normal for too much longer.
I really have no words, but this has been like quite the eye-opening and the really one of the more insightful podcasts, Q&A sessions that we've had, and we've had quite a few. We've had some really awesome ones, especially recently. But in light of everything that's going on, I don't think Shaw and I would have had a better person to come, kind of put things in its proper perspective about how the NBA can virtually be impacted, over the next few months. And it's amazing because there's so many facets to the NBA other than just those remaining games to be played for the regular season and the playoffs. There are just so many other things that happen during this period to line things up for why, you are out there still covering a lot of everything happening in the NBA for draft, combine, summer league, the global aspects of it. It's just remarkable. And to have you on board, Tim, today to kind of really shed light on the importance, one, of how this pandemic is affecting the game and is affecting those who follow and what's going on with the NBA. But more importantly, this awesome article that you put together that's on NBA.com. I would encourage people to check it out. With you sitting down and talking with Adam Silver and speaking with a few of the players as well, too, on what their mindset is about the state of play right now with the NBA. Tim, man, we really appreciate you jumping on board with us this week and, speaking truth to power, brother.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys and, all of us that are privileged enough to work in this game in some small way. We're all in this thing together, right? And it's, we're all in the same boat now. And I was flattered that you guys asked and would love if you guys have me on again. I'll try to be tighter with the answers if I ever come back. But I know it's
Nah, man, we like times. You when you loosey-goosey with this, man.
Man, these are scary times. I would just say to your listeners, do the right things. Take care of your families. Take care of yourselves. The game's coming back. It's not going to be back tomorrow. But, when it comes back, we're all going to be better for having gone through this. And I can't wait for whatever the new normal is going to be because the game is still the greatest game ever invented, and it's going to be the greatest game when we get back out there. And I know you guys love it as much as I do, so that's why I was more than happy to jump on with you guys for a little bit.
Well said, Tim. Well said. You're tuned to The Baseline. Cal Lee, Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA, and this was a breakdown.
Still aftermath, and ain't nothing after that.
Time for that aftermath. Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, as we break down really a phenomenal one-on-one session with our man Tim Reynolds for the AP, who, he laid it down, Shaw. He laid it down, and everything that I think, when people will read this article, it has the feel for me when I read it of something that's in the norm during abnormal times, right? But you can clearly tell that he is trying to portray or project the same kind of tone and tenor that the commissioner is trying to project to not anyone who's just, people who read, NBA.com or the AP or anything like that, but just people in general on their understanding about the game, because he recognizes that the game adds some normalcy to our everyday lives. That this is what's happening right now is a disruption to that. And he's trying to come off in a way where he is trying to keep everybody say, hey, we're going through a really rough patch right now, but I have every confidence in the world, the people that I'm with and the people I'm working with and those who I'm speaking to, we're going to get through this. And I think that in itself, to me, is what resonates when you sit down and talk with a guy like Tim Reynolds, who's seen it all, right? To be able to project that in that same manner as how he is writing this article, to me, speaks volumes of how important this was such a great Q&A session to have with him.
At the end of the day, it's just honest journalism, really and truly. And I think that is something that's sorely missed in this, clickbait era that we've been in for quite some time. Tim is a guy who just wants to give you the meat and potatoes of it. And he's got the details, he's got the story behind the stories, but he's going to give you what you need to know without the fluff. And at the end of the day, that's what we need in this time. We need just straightforward reporting. And Tim is just one of the best out there. That's why he has the longevity that he's had in this business. And, just so honored that he was able to join us. He was even a little bit short notice. And, for our fans and listeners, give you a peek behind the veil here. We didn't know it would even go that long. We didn't really give him a time.
It was definitely not in our plans. It's definitely.
But I mean, and because we have to format a show, and typically guests need to go on about their way and things of that nature. But he really took his time to give us and give our fans and listeners some in-depth analysis on just kind of what he thinks. And as I say every time, I mean, we're people first, right? This is what this is all about, and we wouldn't be here otherwise. And I think when we keep that at the forefront of everything that we're doing, in humanity and all its virtue is what we're focused on. Then we get interviews and conversations like this that are just real, that are honest, that are poignant about what we need to be discussing.
And I can't stress this enough so that people really understand. What Tim Reynolds is doing is important work, right? Like, I understand that a lot of the focus is in regard to where we are as a nation in our ability to handle this pandemic. And it's amazing what Tim was saying. He's like, listen, normally what I'm doing is covering the NBA. But I've had moments where I've had to cover the hurricanes. I've had to cover elections. I've had to cover important things that happen to everyday people. So it's not just confined in the space of just saying, hey, how's your basketball life doing? And it's amazing. Like, the one thing that really stands out to me is that when he said he spoke to Adam Silver, sat down, and he basically took these quotes and put together this article, he saw in Adam Silver's responses and the way that he carried himself that Adam Silver felt like he is shouldering the burden of those 55,000 employees. He's not directly responsible for every single one of them. That's on the owners who have these individual teams. But he believes that the onus is on him. And I think that this speaks volumes about where we are. We're not just only within what we're in, where our titles say that we are. Tim is not just a writer. He is also someone that is an informed citizen who's using his occupation as a way to continue to disseminate important information and how that will impact us in our everyday lives. And this just happened to be one of those things.
Yeah, it did. And I think he's going to continue to do that. I mean, if you listen, you hear him saying that, yeah, he'll eventually move on as basketball will become kind of less important in the grand scope of what we need to do as human beings on this earth, right? So he'll go to the other sides of AP and start reporting on that. And the fact that he's already done some research on how you can get testing and things of that nature just goes to show you where his head is at ultimately, and the kind of the work that AP is doing in general. And that we would all be best to kind of follow in line with that. Just listen, do what we need to do to protect yours and to protect what you have close to you, but kind of keep the world view always, at the center of what you're doing as well too. Your family is first, but how can you help humanity in general in whatever space of the world that you may have?
Absolutely. And once again, we want to encourage people who, after listening to this, I would certainly think that you may want to add a guy like Tim Reynolds on your radar if you use Twitter. So be sure to catch him on his Twitter handle, by Tim Reynolds. And again, a phenomenal writer. He writes for the Associated Press. And I have no doubts, and Shaw certainly has no doubts. He is a credible source and certainly will give you the straight truth. So be sure to add him on, especially with everything that's happening right now. You can never have enough reliable sources in order for you to get the necessary information for you to move forward with your daily lives. Once again, we'd like to thank each and every single person for hopping on board with us this week. This has been an awesome show. We'd like to thank our man Tim Reynolds for hopping on board with us and helping us rip up our originally intended outline of a show. It was well needed because this was such a great show to put together. For The Baseline, Callie, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys. You know we do, and we'll catch up with you next time.